inflation's happened. The Fed really is struggling right now on whether or not they bring interest rates down or whether or not they continue to charge interest rates. They came out with the 0.25 to combat inflation because obviously there's too much money in the system right now. At the same time, even though they're denying it, and we're going to see whether or not this is true, they turned the printing press back on again, especially after SVB and Signature and these banks failed. They are starting quantitative easing, so they're doing both at the same time, which devalues the dollar. So what we pay for gets less. And the point I really wanted to get to is the longer we wait to do projects, the more damage that occurs. Right?
Exactly.
We have one project. We have several projects, and I'm going to use a deck project for example. We know that water is getting behind the asset, and it's causing more and more problems the longer we wait, which causes additional expense for repair. Right? It's that coupled with the fact that the dollar loses value with the more inflation that occurs, and if they've started quantitative easing again, that's going to make things more expensive in the future. If you had the opportunity to pull the trigger for a board that's on the fence, what recommendation would you give them right now?
I would tell them that although interest rates are high, if we're looking at a loan option, we could wait and hope that the interest rates go down. But there's no guarantee of that. And then when you also take into account material costs and labor costs, which are also skyrocketing right now, even if the interest rates do go down in the next few months, in the next year, the material costs are still going up. The cost of living is going up. And you might get a lower interest rate, but your costs are still going to keep climbing upwards because it costs more to get people to do the work. It costs more for the products and materials that you need. So I would say your best hope is to proactively plan, check all your boxes, check your work, make sure that you're not getting taken for a ride with the pricing, make sure that you understand what you're paying for and that it seems fair and reasonable, and then sign that contract. Because up until the point when you sign that contract, those numbers could change every single day. Proposals that come in typically will be valid for anywhere from a week to 2 months. And then those prices go out because the contractor can't let you then sign a contract in 4 months when the material costs have skyrocketed, the labor costs have skyrocketed, and they can't give you that same price. So in order to keep the stability and know that you're going to get the work done and make sure that it doesn't get worse and that the cost fluctuations don't go all over the place, sign the contract as soon as you feel good about the numbers that you have and the contractor that you're working with.
Well said. The associations have an obligation to maintain the integrity of the properties, and these investments should not go by the wayside because previous boards, previous management companies, previous homeowners didn't want to raise assessments. If you are stuck right now with a very, very daunting task of funding deferred maintenance, get ahead of it as quickly as you possibly can. I have a boatload of success stories from associations that came looking for professional management, not to find a contract that was equal price to what they were currently paying for more service being provided. And that's really important. If you're a board that is unhappy, when you're out looking, figure out what it is that needs to change. And if you have a lot of maintenance in your community and none of it's being addressed and you're taking a look at your budget and there's not enough money there, you're not going to find a management company that's going to pay for it for you. You're going to need to make the hard decision. Find a management company that's going to help you make the correct ones, going to help you find a banking partner that's going to be perhaps helping you fund a loan, a contractor that is going to stand by you and be a good partner through the project, through the process, and be around for the years after. Because one thing I can guarantee, if it's a large project, you're going to need them to come back. So treat that relationship like gold. Make sure that you treat them well and that they're treating you well. It's going to be a give and take. Oftentimes when you get into these projects and you start pulling, building envelope off of the front of a building, like siding or EFIS or, whatever product is out there, you may find some nasty stuff back there.
Absolutely.
And it's not that the contractor is trying to squeeze more out of the association, but if it's behind if it's behind a surface they cannot see into and they come across it, it's not their obligation or responsibility to pay for it. They're going to notify you, and be careful about nurturing that relationship and be kind through the process. It may not be good news, but you're going to need to get through it. Making these big money decisions with community money, it's daunting, it's overwhelming, it's certainly a scary task. Many of us have never written $20,000 check before. Trying to approve $1 million project with money that didn't necessarily come from us, but we're responsible to it. It's a huge responsibility for a volunteer. So really make sure when you're interviewing your management companies that they have the right processes and the right people and the right resources in place to help you out. We strive to do that on a consistent basis. So I have to throw my little commercial in there because this is important to the foundation of what we envision management companies being. The organization, the relationship building, the oversight, understanding what's going into projects is super important. And we've worked on this for a while. Kind of go to a board, sit down and understand what their project is. What does the board want? What is it that they're asking for? Before going out and wasting time with contractors on, oh, bid it this way. Well, we didn't like that bid because we can't afford it. So bid it this way. Well, we can't afford it right now. Haven't bid it this way. And before we know it, we're 4 years into it. And these contractors have put thousands of dollars into the bidding process. How about we change things a little bit? And when we're serious about getting a project done, we're going to get a
ROM,
which is a
rough order of magnitude.
Why is that important?
That is extremely important because it allows us to work with one contractor, figure out the scope of work that's needed, wanted by the board, and possible. And we work with one contract at a time so that we get that initial cost estimate. Once we have the cost estimate, we can look at the funding that the association has available, whether they have reserve funds, whether they have enough in their operating to do this, and we can break it down into phases to figure out what the best approach for this project will be. And once we figure out where the money is going to come from, whether that's a loan, special assessment, some other sort of funding, then we can move into the true bidding process with additional contractors. And we already have the scope of work from the initial ROM bid to pass over to these new contractors who are going to take a look at it, and they know exactly what we're looking for. There's no question. We're going to get apples to apples bids, and it's going to make the board's decision way easier because they know they have the money, they have comparable bids, and they can sit down and say, I really like this contractor for XYZ reason. This price may be a little bit higher, but I really think that it's going to get the job done way better. And it's much easier than having to go through 3 to 5 proposals that words all bid the same way, try to get them to be apples to apples, try to get things rebid, redone, rework the scope, and then we might end with a contract that we like, but we have no way to pay for it because we haven't considered funding yet because we were waiting to get to that final bid.